Welcome back, everybody. This is the Sonny Style Show tonight from Ohio State. Linebacker, 6'5", 240 pounds are the most common weights and heights that we found listed for him. That is Austin Freed. That is Shane Ratliff. I am Ben Parker. This is Box Score Network that most of you will be watching on, but some of you may also be checking out Pro Football Enterprises as well. So whatever network you're on, once you're done here, go check out the other one. We all work on the same, so same two networks. A lot of cool stuff. Most of it NFL related, not all of it, most of it NFL related. Tonight, Sonny Styles from Ohio State. Shane, take it away, man.
I think the first thing you take off the list is just super athletic. I mean, the numbers, and when you consider that this guy started out as a safety and somebody had to watch and look at a 6'5", at that point he wasn't 240, but well over 200 pounds, and
Yeah.
realize that that guy's coming downhill at me. I'm already excited about what can happen with that. Um, I think his biggest talent as a linebacker plays back to those safety skills. His closing speed is absolutely excellent. He uses his instincts well. When he diagnoses a play, he gets to that. You can see him erase mistakes by other players in the defensive set, where maybe a guy takes a misstep. You see him being able to cover it just because of the speed that he has, the range that he can show. Um, I think for a former defensive back, he's great with his hands, violent hands, attacks blockers. Um, I think his biggest skill set going forward, he's an absolute menace on special teams and a starter that still plays special teams. He can play a bunch of different roles. We said safety, plays more of a outside backer kind of conversion end at Ohio State. I think the weaknesses for him are the same reason why he doesn't play safety anymore. Man coverage for him is difficult. He reads well out of zones, and he has a good feel for spacing, but man coverage is scary for him. Um, his techniques as a tackler, sometimes you can see him kind of get by the wayside because he's used to being a guy that normally comes and cleans up tackles as opposed to a guy that has to enforce those. I think, though, that the thing that affects him most defensively is that he is super aggressive. So sometimes he'll make mistakes just because he wants to get to the ball as much as he possibly can so he can be beat out there. But I think when you talk total package, and for a guy that hasn't really been asked to play linebacker for a very long time, the things that he puts on tape are special. I mean, he's a guy that athletically is going to show well, and I think coaches are going to love talking to him. He's also a father, played in the NFL, so another guy where you got the bloodlines and you can make that connection. Coaches and evaluators, when they see that, they love to put that check mark next to a guy, and I think he'll show very well in the draft when he decides to come out.
Very good, Shane. Austin, I apologize. I normally come straight to you, but there's several of my notes that almost directly line up with what Shane said. So I'm just for a little bit of synergy here. I'm gonna go ahead and rattle through my notes, and we'll have you as the closer tonight. Okay, Austin, is that all right?
That's fine. Fine with me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. All right. So mostly lines up at linebacker, occasionally at edge. Often he is the only linebacker lined up at second level for Ohio State. They trust him to be able to carry a lot of that stuff. So it wasn't unusual, not every play, but it wasn't unusual to see him be the only linebacker sitting back there. Very, very good in run support, especially as the cleanup guy. Shane, I think you mentioned the word eraser. I use cleanup. Same thing. That's exactly the same role we're talking about. Keeping 4 and 5 yard gains from being explosives. I saw a lot of that. Every once in a while, he will blow up a run play, but that's really not what he's usually doing. Usually, he's cleaning up after other guys. He's erasing plays, keeping them from turning into huge plays. So totally agree. Stops plenty of plays at the line of scrimmage, but it's not the main feature of his game to fly in and blow things up behind the line. Unlike his teammate Arvell Reese, who's always going in with 2 sticks of dynamite and blowing up everything. Sonny can do that, but that's not typically what he's doing. He's kind of sitting back there, covering for everybody, covering for what everybody else is screwing up, right? He does a fantastic job of that. Just really tremendous. While he can make plays in the boundary, it's not normal for him. His speed seems okay, but fairly average, can move quick, but does not seem to have a top gear. So here's the key, because Shane, you mentioned the speed. He's got plenty of speed. All right, that's not a question. He's got plenty of speed, but I just didn't see him kick in that top gear, like we mentioned for some running backs. Right, they can explode through the hole. They have plenty of burst, lots of speed, lots of. Just didn't see a top gear that he kicked it into, which may also be a reason he's not playing safety anymore, right? Because a lot of those defensive backs have that top gear. I just didn't see the top gear, but boy, he's got plenty of speed. I did see the over aggressiveness you mentioned. I saw him trailing a lot of plays, right? You see him running behind a lot of plays out there on the boundary and in the flat. It's because he didn't take the great angle. He got a little too aggressive with it. He's running behind trying to catch up. But um, let's see where to pick up here. Can carry, you mentioned the one-on-one routes, Shane. Totally agree. He can carry tight end routes way downfield on one-on-one, but he's not typically shutting people down. He can stay right with them. That's not a problem, but they can still catch the football in spite of that. Just didn't see a lot of him ripping the ball away from them or shutting them down. They can get separation, and the Buckeyes ask him to do that about 3 to 5 times a game. I saw them, asking him to carry these one-on-one routes downfield. That's about it. Um, He's very good at carrying wheel routes one-on-one downfield. When he spots a wheel route on a running back, he can carry that almost match. He sees the route, he can carry that. But he struggles one-on-one against outs or corner routes. So you ask him to do any of the outs or the corner stuff, he's one-on-one man coverage. I didn't see him excelling at that, Shane. So I'm right there with you on that. Didn't see as much of him rushing the quarterback as I would have liked. I bet he can do it. I bet he can do a lot more than what I saw out of him. I bet he can be explosive off the edge once he puts in more work and gets more moves. But what I saw, I liked. I really liked the burst, the athleticism. Here we go. Here's why I love Sonny Styles. His real specialty seems to be zone coverage. He seems to understand it. He seems to feel it. He just seems to be a beautiful zone coverage guy. He can line up at the line. You don't see many guys doing this, but he can. He can line up at the line of scrimmage at the start of the play. And by the time the ball is snapped, he has already dropped into second level. And by the time the quarterback is looking at his second option, he's already dropped to third level. All this without turning his back. He's just that athletic at dropping back, dropping back, dropping back. And he's got his eye on the quarterback and on the play the whole time. It's a really unusual skill set that he's got to be able to do that. And he's not just out there wandering in space like a lot of these guys. He is in zone freaking coverage. Really love this. He's actually picking up people who come into his zones. He loves to take away quarterback checkdowns when running backs or tight ends are trying to sneak out in the flat. I'm almost done here. You will not succeed at getting checkdowns in his area. All right. You know how offenses love to sneak a running back out and get a little 5 yard, if they got nothing else, or they love to put a tight end out here underneath. And he will shut down all of that. He is beautiful at that. His zone magnetism is fantastic. Makes a lot of great tackles on underneath routes, keeps those from becoming explosive yaks. You talk about a racer. He doesn't just do that in the run game, but a lot of the stuff that comes through his zone, and this is perfect for what offensive coordinators are trying to attack at the NFL level these days. Stuff coming through his zone. They may catch the ball in that area, but he will usually drop it immediately and keeps that from turning into 20-yard gains. Love his zone coverage. And he quickly gravitates toward receivers trying to settle into holes. His zone coverage to me is elite. I mean, just absolutely elite for a linebacker. I mean, he's not a corner. For a linebacker, I feel like his zone coverage is absolutely elite. The one-on-one, they'll ask him to do it. It's not great. But then the mistakes he's making up for in the run game as other teammates miss tackles or maybe not even mistakes, it allows his teammates to be very aggressive and he can kind of clean up after that. So I love Sonny Styles. I'll talk about where I might draft him here in a second. Austin, thank you for waiting through both of us and a lot of my pile of notes there. So Austin, take it away. Take as long as you want here on Sonny Styles.
There's a lot I agree with and some I disagree with from what you guys have said. When we talk about coverage, I think his zone coverage skill that I like the best, I think he passes off zone coverage as well as anybody. I think he is able to, if he's got someone coming through his zone, like say or they're running like a crosser or something like that, like he is able to follow, pass out of his zone, and then get back to his zone
Yeah,
really, really well.
yeah,
I think, and that's one of the hardest things to do, and I think he does that really well. but I think he plays. I think he is too aggressive within his zone sometimes, and I think that has caused some issues. I think it's definitely something that I'd rather see someone too aggressive than too passive, I think, especially in college.
Yeah.
I think that's just a coaching style thing also with Ohio State and how they like to play defensively. He reminds me a lot of Jahad Campbell, who I was madly in love with in last year's
Right.
draft. I mean, Ben knows how much I love Jahad Campbell in last year's draft.
Austin was the leader in the clubhouse on the Jahad Campbell fan base and never backed off. He was
No,
early and he never backed off. Excellent work by Austin. Yes.
thank you. Yes. Sonny Styles reminds me a lot of Jahad Campbell, and I had to kind of pump the brakes on it because I don't think he is
Right.
as fast. Jahad Campbell had
Yeah.
that top gear that you talked about, Ben. I don't
Yeah.
think Sonny has that. What Sonny does have tremendous amounts of is lateral quickness and phenomenal hips. And that's what allows him to pass off those zones so well. It's what allows him to sit on play action from a linebacker. When he
Yes.
sees
Yes.
play action coming, he's able to just freeze for a second and then instantly start turn to wherever he needs to get or backpedal or shuffle or slide or whatever he needs to do. He's just
Hmm.
able to so quickly kind of get moving in the right direction because of his tremendous footwork, hips, and just a lot of lateral burst. So I think that is something that I really impressed with. He's one of the best tacklers in this class, I think. He had zero
Oh,
missed tackles in 2025. He has
wow.
long, strong hands,
Mm,
and I don't think he doesn't try to go hit anybody big. He's not a big hitter at all. And he is very much a solid, sound, kind of, Seahawks 2012 to 14 tackler. Which is funny because you see a guy his size and you're like, I bet this guy can lay the boom, and he just doesn't.
right.
He is very much a sound wrap up kind of tackler on most occasions. I think his play recognition is very good, considering he is has transitioned from a safety role to a linebacker role. I think his recognition is really good, and that's obviously something that safeties also have to be good at. So I think he did have a nice solid baseline, but I'm anticipating it to get even better as he gets more reps at the linebacker role. I think his pass rush is pretty impressive on the few reps he's got to do that. I think he's shown some pretty good uh, chops there. That's obviously not something that he is going to be drafted for, but I think it's one of those things that you can see and say, "Hey, we can take this and work on it and
Right.
improve it and get it to a place where it's actually a plus attribute for him rather than this kind of niche thing." Overall, a pretty unique prospect with tremendous size. I mean, 6'5" really is big, and I think some pretty good athleticism as well. So I'm I'm pretty high on him. I'm not quite Jahad Campbell levels where I
Right.
was last year on Jahad, but I very much am a Sunny Styles guy.
Yeah, Austin, I like everything you're putting out there. I do think he's unique. It's an unusual it, it him being a former safety, I think creates a lot of that, like both of you mentioned. So, all right, Shane, back to you, man. I do want to know how high you're really, if you're an NFL team, right? Maybe a particular NFL team, but if you're an NFL team, how high are you really starting to think about this guy? And then anything else you want to finalize here on Sunny?
I'm real high on Sonny Styles. I think that he's a guy. It is going to depend on the team. Um, you know, Austin brought up Jahad Campbell. When I watched him, I thought you're like a Zach Bond, a Fred Warner, where you have a guy that plays in the middle, but you can see him run around and make whatever plays you need to happen. Um, Talent wise, I think Styles is a first round guy. I mean, if you could project and say, look at everything he's done for this, and he's only played this position truthfully for a year, you get him with a team that's going to let him play in this style and make decisions, I think he's only going to get better. Both of you guys hit on the pass rush. I think a big part of why we don't see more of that is because Matt Patricia is his defensive coordinator. Um, the years where Patricia was with the Patriots, each guy has a responsibility, and you're going to get real good at that responsibility. But I don't want you to do something else. So, like defensive linemen, they were the rush specialists with the Patriots. You weren't blitzing linebackers at all sorts of crazy positions. And like both of you mentioned in your breakdowns, they give Sonny Styles more responsibility than any other linebacker I really see in the nation a lot. The only other one that's close is Jacob Rodriguez at Texas Tech, where they ask this guy, you're like, you need to set the defense and you're going to have to run from all over the place to make every single play. Styles, a lot of times, the only linebacker out there. So you know he's the guy that's going to have to read, penetrate, and both of you mentioned, erase those tackles. I think the only thing that's going to hurt him is the point that Austin brought up, which I don't see as a weakness, but he's not, it depends on how you, he's not a John Lynch. He's not a Ray Lewis where you're going to come out there and you just go,
Right.
man, he smacked the hell out of that guy.
Right.
But
Right.
you're going to get there at the end of the game and he didn't miss any tackles. When Austin says that, you to not have a missed tackle in the way that we play college football in the NFL is absolutely ridiculous. That means that every time you were the one to make contact, that guy ended up on the ground. They haven't changed the rules of football. That's the object of defense. Get him on the ground, don't let him score points. So if I can eliminate those type of mistakes, he's a guy I'd love to put in the middle of my defense, and you just let him take care of his responsibilities. Um, I think the important thing that I saw the most, Austin hit on it. His hips allow him to make mistakes with his body that he gets back out of. And you don't see that with a lot of other people. He can turn and diagnose, and then he has that hiccup where he goes, up, I shouldn't have jumped that route. But then he manages to get back to the second level when he should have never jumped the slant route. He does make mistakes. He's not a complete robot, but his athletic ability and his thought processing allow him to clear out some of those issues that he makes.
That's very good work from both of you, especially about the hips. The hips is not something that I made a note of, but that's excellent work on the hip thing there. I love Sonny Styles. I've got him as a top 20 guy right now. It wouldn't bother me at all for people to draft him higher than that. And that really just depends on whether or not you have a defense and a defensive coordinator that you can envision him just being lockstep with, right? Because he can play for any defense, but if I really want to kind of bonus up with him, I'd love to match him up with a particular defense and a particular coordinator and really just allowing him to have that full blooming skill set that's kind of unique for what he does, right? So I've got him as a top 20 guy. Absolutely love just about everything about Sonny Styles. But y'all are right. Even though there are times where he's too aggressive, he's not the blow it up kind of guy. That's just not his mindset. That's not his skill set. So I really do really love Sonny here. All right, Austin, you get the final word on this, where you would draft him and anything else you want to say about him.
Yeah, he's not going to be the first linebacker taken in the draft. He's not even going to be the first linebacker taken from the Ohio State Buckeyes. We've already
He
talked about
might be the
Arthur.
third Buckeye taken.
He might be the
Yes.
third Buckeye taken on defense.
On defense. Yes.
And it's probably still going to be somewhere between pick 20 and 30. Like,
Mm.
um, yeah, it's crazy how talented this defense is. He might actually scratch that. He might be the fourth Buckeye taken.
It's
Third
possible. Yes.
if Carnell Tate
Yeah.
goes high too.
Yes.
But yeah, this is a guy who, just due to position is going to fall down draft boards farther than his talent is. His talent, I think, is top 15 in this draft, potentially pushing the top 10. With, positional value, it's going to be somewhere closer to 25, is what I would think. That's not to say that wouldn't be tremendous. I think that's probably about where Jahad Campbell would have gone had he not had a neck injury that
Right.
would been
Right.
dealing through. I think Sonny has a pretty clean injury history to not be worried about. So I think that is probably going to have him, not falling down boards too far. But just due to positional rankings and things like that, I would take him anywhere after 20. I would be fine taking a guy of his talent caliber if you need a linebacker. I see no problems with it. The last thing I did want to mention, one other note I didn't read on my first pass through. I mentioned how he was able to kind of freeze a little bit on some plays and let his athleticism make up for it. He would like sometimes when guards were pulling and trying to reach the second level, he would get caught behind blocks. Pretty good. And that's one of those things with his long arms and frame. You kind of hope he'd be able to keep them at bay long enough to avoid them. But he does get caught up behind blocks a good amount. I do think he's a pretty decent block shedder, though. Like, I don't think he gets caught on those blocks for too long. He usually is able to kind of get his way out of them and not get completely taken out of a play. But that's one more kind of minor negative.
I doubt anybody can see that, Austin, but literally word for word. And I didn't read it like you. I failed to read it because it was early in the notes and I didn't want to be negative. He can
Yeah,
be consistently blocked by pulling offensive linemen. It does happen. Yes, you're
yeah,
1,000% right. I didn't even. I loved Sonny so much. I kind of hated to bring it up.
yeah, yeah. I feel you there.
So yeah, you're right. And he doesn't, but he doesn't usually stay that way. But
No.
if it's a quick pull through, they can catch him on that. Yes. Yeah, totally agree. All right. That's Sonny Styles, everybody. And that's Austin and that's Shane and I'm Ben. And thank y'all so much for joining us. I hope you enjoy the draft. Listen, a lot of y'all do the work too. You're just kind of checking in to get, somebody else's opinion and you may have a little bit different one. And that's totally fine. But here you got three opinions on Sunday, so add it to the work that you're already doing. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the season and the draft. Everybody have a great one. Bye.